why Squid Game in Korea actually did not end, how Gi-hun will return in the future, and what was the purpose of player for 56's jumpsuit in the box received by his daughter. If you thought you knew Squid Game's ending, this video is going to make you think twice because you didn't expect that Squid Game Season 3, even though called final, was far from the end. It's time to break everything down and finally understand what was the real ending. At first, it seems that Squid Game in Korea is finally finished as along with all 456 players. The whole underground structure was destroyed and the island burned in fire. But does that really mean the end? If you recall, all essential people were evacuated before the massive explosion, and the pink soldiers, VIPs, and the frontmen left the island safe and unharmed. At the beginning of Season 3, we learned that Noyeol received a card for Squid Game unexpectedly, but she knew exactly what this card meant. That means even though pink soldiers are spread around South Korea, they are all trackable and can receive the card invitation to a new Squid Game from the frontman at any time. Yes, for the new Squid Game in South Korea. A new place will be found and new infrastructure will be built. Yet the fact that the frontmen and VIPs are still alive makes it clear that Squid Game in Korea will take place again in the future. We already know that they masterfully hid the games from the government and police for over 37 years. As Squid Game in Season 3 was exactly the 37th by order. And even though the police now suspect the games, they still won't have the necessary proof as the island burned, burying all evidence. So do you still think Squid Game in South Korea is finished forever? The good old faces appear at the end of Squid Game Season 3, and one of them is Gi-hun's daughter Gi-hun. Her attitude toward her father is sharply negative and aggressive. She does not want to hear anything about Gi-hun, and only after realizing that Gi-hun is dead does she accept the black box. This attitude toward her own father surprised many viewers because, at the end of Season 1, we remember how close and open they were, talking by phone. But Gi-hun's decision to remain in Korea and start investigating Squid Game changed their relationship completely. Gi-hun promised to come to the USA but did not keep his promise. Most likely, all the time spent looking for Squid Game's location. He communicated with his daughter very poorly. Even when he was brave enough to call her, he did not say a single word on the phone. Gi-hun's absence in her life directly influenced her attitude, ruining all good and warm memories from the past. That is why, hearing his name, she was negative toward any of the information the frontman brought about Gi-hun. Gi-hun received the black box that contained Gi-hun's player suit and the card with the remaining prize money. But if the card does not raise questions, why did the frontman leave the bloody suit of player for 156 inside the box? The reason for this is the nature of the frontman, who doesn't like to be straightforward and prefers people to figure things out on their own. If you recall, in Season 1, the first time using the card, Gi-hun typed his player number as the PIN code and received access to the prize. So by giving the card, the frontman expected Gi-hun to be clever enough to use the numbers for 156 on the jumpsuit, as these are exactly the PIN code to the card. Without this jumpsuit, Gi-hun would never have got access to her father's money. Comment below if you realized this while watching the Season 3 ending. But you didn't expect that the ending you saw in Season 3 was actually not the original one. Everything was explained in one of the recent interviews with director Wang Dong-hyuk, the creator of Squid Game. Originally, he planned a completely different ending and having Gi-hun as the main character. He expected that after all the struggles, Gi-hun would manage to survive and finally meet his daughter once again. It had to be Gi-hun who flew to the USA, drove through Los Angeles streets, and accidentally saw how one of the recruiters was playing Dakji on the corner. This had to be the moment when Gi-hun realized that all his actions to end the games in Korea actually had nothing to do with the rest of the world. And even if he finished the game in one country, other countries continue deadly games and bet on people like horses. But if Gi-hun was the one driving through Los Angeles streets, what would happen to the frontman? The frontman had to die together with Squid Game, buried under the ruins. This was the original ending written on paper, yet after reading this, the director realized it was too simple and not enough for a story with so much death and sacrifice. Adding the baby to the story and Gi-hun sacrificing himself for an innocent soul was the ending. That gave more meaning to such an emotional and difficult story. So the ending was changed, but Gi-hun's final fate didn't become the main reason for this. The reason why the frontman was kept alive is very important too, and this will be highlighted just in a moment. Many viewers wonder why exactly Dakji was the game that the recruiter played in Los Angeles, and not any American game more familiar to Americans. To answer this, you need to read once again the name of the main game. It's called Squid Game, which means the game that spread around the world was created in South Korea. Exactly, this country is the motherland of Squid Game, and playing Dakji remains the entrance test as a tradition for over 40 years. But the games that will be played in the American Squid Game won't refer to Korean ones. The purpose of Squid Game is to play childhood games with a deadly outcome. So even though the original Dakji game was used as the entrance test, the actual deadly games will refer to local childhood games. The scene that raised many questions was when Jun-ho finally reaches the island, enters the VIP's room and sees his brother with the baby. All of seasons 2 and 3, we watched how Jun-ho tries to reach the island once again. But if in season 1 his goal was to find his brother, who most likely died taking part in the games, in season 2 he wants to come back for another reason. Even though it seems that his main goal is to rescue Gi-hun and others, in fact, Jun-ho seeks the island to finally have a chance to talk with his brother and ask him why he runs the deadly games. Yes, even after getting shot in the shoulder, Jun-ho thinks that his brother did not want to kill him. Captain Park confirms this theory even more when, before his death, he says that In-ho ordered him to save Jun-ho. He wanted to keep him safe far from the island, even understanding that his brother runs the most awful deadly games that kill over 456 people every year. Jun-ho still feels a strong family connection with In-ho and wants to understand his actions and not just kill him to stop the games. That is why the only word he can say when he sees In-ho inside the games with the baby in his hands is why. Why would a former police officer, who was all his life an example for Jun-ho and loyal to serve the people, now organize the games that kill them? The strong connection between Jun-ho and In-ho is obvious, yet still covered in mystery. From season 1, we understand that In-ho cares about his brother more than about anyone else left in his life, and shooting him in the shoulder was the only way to get him off the island. When the frontman sees Jun-ho in the VIP's room in season 3, he understands that his brother can be the one he can trust with player 222's baby. That's why Jun-ho received the baby when she was 6 months old with the entire winning prize. The frontman knew his brother is the only one who will truly understand the baby's origin. Also, this is the reason why the baby was delivered to Jun-ho wrapped in player 222's suit. The existence of this jumpsuit is a direct message that this baby is from the deadly games. And even if Jun-ho could not stop Squid Game and save people's lives, he can help at least this baby to live a better life. But even after all this, you may still have more questions than answers, and this is not accidental. The reason why Squid Game Season 3 didn't finish by telling all stories is because a spin-off is expected. In one of the interviews with the actors and director Wong, we got a glimpse of the spin-off idea. We already know that the past of the frontman was a question that worried all viewers through the seasons, yet even at the end of Season 3, we did not get the answers. The reason for this was more serious than we think. Exactly, the frontman can become the focus of a future spin-off of the series. And if you think the next season has to be based on Squid Game in the USA, here is a shocking reveal for you. During the special interview released on Netflix, two actors Lee Byung-hun and Lee Young-jae shared that they want to see the past of the frontman, opening more of his story and personality. All this time, director Wong modestly smiled, but in an interview on The Night Show, actor Lee Byung-hun gave a more direct answer, answering the question, "Will there be a spin-off for the frontman?" The actor pressed the blue button, which means yes, initially. This part was removed from the interview, as it was a major spoiler for the audience. Yet after the release of Squid Game Season 3, this part was published on YouTube. So there is no doubt this information plays a crucial role. It means we have all chances to see a special series based exactly on the frontman and his life, before he entered Squid Game and even after. With this, all the familiar faces will appear again on screen, including Gi-hun and Oh Il-nam. Comment below if you want to see such a spin-off in the future, and be sure to watch the next video.